Hey, Christie, we've got a very special guest this morning. His name is Morgan J. Ingram.
It just makes sense. Like, if someone leaves a blueprint of success, you should probably read it.
Excellent. I'm excited.
You should be, because he's your neighbor.
I know. I've heard that. We're going to figure that out. We're going to meet up for coffee one day. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's get this show on the road. Hi, Christie.
Hi, Jeff.
We're recording now.
The many hours of conversation you and I have had, we've had probably half of them that haven't been recorded.
You know what we should do? We should start a podcast.
You think? Let's call it The Why and the Buy.
All right. And welcome back to the Why and the Buy podcast. Christie, it's early in the morning for us. We normally do this thing in the afternoon. What are we thinking?
Oh, we are thinking we've got a great guest with us today. I'm really excited. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us.
Morgan J. Ingram, SDR superstar. I had to throw that in there.
Actually, I kind of like that. I think you should do some Captain America stuff on your t-shirts, and there's a whole theme you could go with there.
Whatever you decide to do, Morgan, thanks for being with us.
Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Super excited to just lay down some knowledge today and provide some insight. If someone wants to make a t-shirt that says that'd be awesome. I can't do that, so that's not my talent. But I'm super excited to be here and provide some knowledge today.
I do know some people who can do that, so let's sticky note that idea, right? But all right, I got to go back because Morgan, you and I have talked off and on through LinkedIn, through some other channels for several months now. And I asked you initially why you got into sales, and you said because you knew it was hard and you'd learn a lot. So I'd like to know what planet you're from. I want to know if you have a belly button, or if you are an alien from another planet. Who gets into sales because it's hard?
I think it's very actually simple if you really break it down. You have to really realize, okay, what are your aspirations? What are your goals? And everyone has these really lofty goals. They want to be a millionaire. They want to be a billionaire. They want to own all this stuff that's whatever. But the thing is that you have to understand that that's a hard path. That's very hard to do. So my thing is that I always in life, I always knew if I could do something that was extremely difficult and I could get through the difficult parts, that everything else would trickle down and be easy. So my thing is all right, well, I'm here. I'm young, right? So I might as well just get the hard stuff out of the way, because either or, it's going to be hard at the end of the day. So I would rather just go ahead and face all the hard stuff now and then and basically chip that down to make my processes and the things I do now easier. So I chose it because it was all right, this is going to be hard. It's going to make me mentally tougher. And now, when I go into certain situations, I'm way more relaxed. I'm way more calm. I'm way more poised, and to actually execute on the actual aspirations and goals that I have.
So what's the hardest thing about what you do as an SDR with Terminus? I guess when I was an SDR, the biggest thing is that, mental toughness. I think a lot of people just don't have the mentality to do it. I'm in a management role now, leading others. So now I have to instill that into other people. But, as an SDR, it's the mentality every single day. The job in itself is simple, but it's not easy, as I always say. The reason that it's not easy is because you have to mentally come in every single day and be positive, knowing that people are going to reject you almost every single day. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to fail and you're going to lose. And it comes into the mentality of what I have to keep a steady mindset. So you have to have a straight line focus every single day of this is what I need to do. And then the highs and lows are just I schedule this many demos, or I close this many deals, or I'm not closing anything and I'm not scheduling anything. My boss is angry. But you have to keep a steady mindset that will always fluctuate and that you will actually get the positive results. So that's the hardest thing about being an SDR is mentality. Some people just don't have it.
So Morgan, just so that our audience knows exactly what we're talking about, can you describe what you do as a sales development rep for Terminus on a daily basis? Give us just a snapshot.
Yeah. So, as a sales development rep, basically it's call, email, social touch, every single day. So, when I was an SDR, basically I had 8:30 to 10 o'clock was calls, 10 to 11 was personalization, 11 o'clock was break, 11:30 to 12 was double touch on accounts that, I needed to follow back up on. 12 to 1 was lunch, 1 to 2 was West Coast, 2 to 3 was prospecting, 3
3 o'clock was break, 3:30, 4:30 was calls, 4:30 to 5 was like cleaning up, Salesforce and different activities. So that was my day every single day. I kept a process, I kept a schedule because I knew that the process worked. And so because I knew that it worked, I consistently was always hitting the same number every single week. And then if I was just having a really good week, I would always go over. So I never performed below because I knew the actual schedule and process to be successful. And that's really what it is every single day, is calls and emails, reaching out to net new accounts to hand off to account executive for a close opportunity.
So now you're in a management role. And if I look back at your LinkedIn progression, right, you were in a leadership role and now a management role. I mean, you've been double promoted within the last year. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. So how did you start with a company, and then what have you been with them now? 15, 16 months? It's not 2 years, right?
16 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Year and 2 months.
So, it's not 2 years and you've been promoted twice. That's not common. What do you think? What do you attribute that to?
It's a lot of things. I think that I'm not complacent. And so a lot of people, when they get into a job or they get a great opportunity or they even get to the school, right, you're really excited that you got into school or you got the opportunity, but you're actually not willing to work inside of that opportunity. So a lot of people just get really excited, like, oh, great, I work for Google. And you never hear from them again because they never put in the work. They're just excited that they got there. So a lot of people get in startups and like, oh yeah, I'm in this awesome startup. We got a freaking beer keg and we got a ping pong table and we're doing stuff after work, but they're actually not working to actually elevate themselves within that opportunity. So that's why people don't get promoted. And so I knew as soon as I got in here, like I was heads down and I internally talked to every single person. So I put time on the CEO's calendar, CMO's calendar, CTO's calendar, my boss's calendar, my boss's boss's calendar, my colleagues. Like I talked to everybody as soon as I got in here. So it was like a relevancy of like, okay, this is who this person is. This is what he stands for outside of his work. Right. And then on top of that, I put in the work as well. And then also within the parameters of my job, I did stuff outside of work that doubled down on what I actually was doing at work. So you have to have a body of work that allows you to excel. You always have to do whatever your aspirations are of like, hey, I want to hit this. That means you're probably gonna have to do something outside of the 9 to 5, because my thing is that like everyone pretty much is in the parameters of a 9 to 5. And you have to think of like, what can I do from like 5 o'clock in the morning to like 8 o'clock at night. Right. So like what I have now is a farther span of opportunities and the farther span of things that I could actually be accessible for those promotions. So the reason for those promotions on a practical level is that I talked to everyone inside of the organization. I learned and grew every single day. I was like reading articles. I was looking at different things. And then I also just built a brand that allowed me to elevate to that promotion.
So tell us about that brand. You have a YouTube channel called the SDR, and you're in the 60s now, or close to the 60s with episodes, and you put something out that's brand new every week. And this started as 2 and 3 minute videos, and now you're bringing guests on. This is a video podcast, right? I mean, tell us about why you decided to do that, how it came apart, how you came upon it, the idea, and then some of your learning curve along the evolution of it.
Yeah, so how it came about is, you guys familiar with Ralph Barcy?
I don't think so.
Okay, so sales development leader. He wrote an article in Sales Hacker called "How to Get Out of Obscurity for SDRs." I read it like 2 weeks before I even applied for Terminus, or even before I even got the job. So I read it and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so when I got the job, I was like, all right. He saw it in that article. He said that like an SDR needs to create a YouTube channel. So I have been making like previous videos before around different things, social media, motivation, inspiration, different stuff. So I was comfortable making videos. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm going to take the reins on it. So I sent him a Twitter video and I was like, hey, Ralph, read your article on making a YouTube channel. I'm going to be the person who creates the YouTube channel. And he messaged me back and he's like, all right, we'll see. So
right.
2.5 months later, he saw me and he was like, where's the videos at? I'm saying, I'm just understanding the role. I want to understand it more before I make videos. And then he was like, all right, we'll see. And then like 3 months later, I created the SDR Chronicles. And so what that is basically providing motivation, inspiration, tips, advice for SDRs in their current roles. That was the whole premise of it. And my whole thing is that like, there's just so much garbage and trash out here, content wise, from a lot of people, especially from our generation, millennials. Like, we're like not doing the right thing. So from the content that I was seeing, a lot of people were talking about stuff that they actually weren't doing in their life, and they were promoting things that they have not even accomplished. So that really pissed me off, like, because it's just like, why are you talking about stuff you haven't done? So I was like, I'm going to talk about something that I'm actually doing. Like, I'm literally in an SDR role. Like, you can come in and literally see me on the phones. Like, I'm not lying. I could do this. I do the role every single day for a year. So I was like, I'm going to tell people where I was seeing success. So basically, I just documented my journey and just used my talent of being really good on video and my energy to transfer to that individual who's watching it. And basically that journey grew. I've been doing it for 9 months. Since then, yes, I was doing 2 to 3 minute videos, and it's elevated since then. I brought on guests that are pretty well known. And it's basically the reason that it's grown so fast is because I'm speaking truths and I'm not speaking false. And I actually do genuinely care about the people that reach out to me. And through that, I respond to every LinkedIn message, Twitter message, whatever, email. But it's basically showing you the growth of a person who came into an industry with no background, no sales background, and basically how you can grow and apply, and how there really is no excuses for actually attaining success.
Well, and that sense of authenticity, Jeff and I talk about quite a bit, and you don't have to be a millennial to be challenged with what's out there in the marketplace today. I mean, everybody and anybody has a Twitter handle, and right. You know, if you get a handful of followers, then all of a sudden you feel like you're a thought leader, right? And I think it's interesting that you chose to do this at this particular juncture in your career. And I wish more people would do it, because I'm sure your audience has actually grown with you over this 9 months of, you know, as you're learning things, you're sharing that at the moment you learn it, instead of waiting, you know, 5-10 years down the line to cherry pick those, you know, those bigger items. I think that's a tremendous experience. So I'm sure you're getting a lot of feedback from your audience of value that you're providing.
100%. Yeah. A lot of value back. A lot of like success stories just from people watching the book. A lot of people have gained a lot of tips and advice. So it's been very, it's been very humbling to see the comments and everything, to see kind of how it's helping other people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Where does this come from, right? Like you mentioned millennials, and I think that millennials are going to save us. I think you're one of those who are going to save us. I think that millennials get a bad rap, but I think where everybody gets these impressions of them, they're unmotivated, they want too much, they take too much for granted, they're okay living in their parents' basement until they're 40. Like you hear all those things, but then you're so much different from what we've heard about other people your age, right? Where does that come from? You know, are there people in your peer group who are the same way? Is that something you have sought out, or are you just that much different, right? I mean, because you're the antithesis of that stereotype.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me, right? Because I think stereotypes a lot of times are just, you know, that's way too broad of a brush. But yeah, you're so motivated and you've got this inner drive. Where does that come from for you?
Okay, so I'm going to give you a diagram first, and then I'm going to explain to you where does it come from. So this is a diagram that the majority of people, every single person's in this, whether you like it or not. So there's 4 levels. The bottom level is unmotivated. So that means that you're just straight up unmotivated, and that's just across the board. Like you could hear something from someone or something, but you literally have no motivation to do anything, and you are willing to just do the bare minimum to get by. So you're just unmotivated. You're never going to go for true aspirations. You're probably going to live a normal life, and nothing's really going to happen for you. So majority of people are in that bucket. And then the next level is motivated. So that means that like if you go to something, you'll get motivated for like a month, and then you'll spurt out. You'll get motivated for 2 months, then you'll spurt out. You don't really have a why, or you have no intrinsic motivation. You don't have a definite chief aim. So really, you're not going to go that far, but you get motivated from time to time. So you have spurts of goodness and you have spurts of actually like declining. So, I mean, those people are basically the emphasize of the up and down line that I talked about for the keep a steady mindset. And then the third level is self-motivated. So this means that you are self-motivated. You got it together. You know what's going on. Like you really don't need anyone to motivate you. You don't need any inspiration. These people tend to do really well, but they always keep it to themselves. They're very self-motivated. They inspire other people, but they really, they're not looking to do that. And then the fourth level is motivator. Motivator, there's only 2% of people that ever get there, and there's only 2% of people that can actually execute on this. So I've realized that I'm in the motivator sense. That means that like I am self-motivated. I do the things I need to do, but also because I know that as well, I'm actually willing to go give inspiration and advice to other people because my energy, it has an abundance, and I can give that energy to other people as well. So that's what a motivator does. And so within that motivator 2%, the majority of people that get to motivator use it for the wrong reasons. So they tell you the wrong advice, they tell you the wrong things. They get too egotistical, they get too cocky, they get too ahead of themselves. They think they're above everyone else, and they use their ability for the wrong reasons. So within that, I realized when I had that gift, I was like, okay, I got to use this for the right reasons. So my real motivation is really to inspire and motivate people. Like I tell people every single day, like I want to be the best motivator of all time. So that doesn't mean that like I'm the best speaker. That means like literally the embodiment and the work that I've done across my lifetime leaves a legacy that basically inspires you to do whatever it was. Not what I'm currently doing, but like literally whatever. It was like this person didn't take any excuses, and they inspired me to do what I'm doing because like he obviously is taking no excuses. So that's like my true motivation. Now behind that, I grew up basically with, you know, not being the top dog in really anything. So I've always had a chip on my shoulder. So also in lieu of that, I also want to prove it to everyone else that like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm willing to grow. So that's one of the reasons that I read every single day. That's why I take my craft seriously. I take the way that I carry myself seriously. I don't do things out of spite because legacy and character mean a lot to me. And one bad move could basically dwindle that down. So my motivation every single day is knowing that I have to be the person now that my younger self needs. So that means that every single day I have to execute on a very high level because I know that my younger self would appreciate that. So I do it for those people, and anyone who has excuses or complaints or feel like they're disadvantaged or they don't have the opportunities, that's why I do it every single day for those people, because I feel like I have the ability and I actually have the influence to actually impact those people and not actually like dilute them or actually give them a bad connotation of where to go. So that's kind of the breakdown.
So what are you reading right now?
Okay, so right now I'm reading The Masters of Command. It's basically taking a deep dive on the leadership tactics of Alexander the Great, Caesar, and Hannibal. So I'm a big history nerd. So I believe that, you know, history always does repeat itself. And basically, if you understand history, you can go ahead and see the results of what's going to happen. So I read a lot of history books, a lot on history leaders, because obviously what they implemented back then can be implemented now. So that's like something I'm really big on.
Best sales book you've ever read?
The best sales book I've ever read, honestly, it had to be Sales Development Playbook by Trish Bertuzzi, just for the sole fact that like it helped me a lot in my sales development role. And I feel like sales development in itself is really crucial because you have to be able to know that faction to know all the other, to know anything else. Like if you don't know how to sell development, you won't be able to run your own company. You won't be able to do sales. You won't be able to get a job. Like it's just the fundamentals of getting opportunities. So that's one of my favorite sales books.
So how awesome was that to have her on your show a couple weeks ago?
It was awesome. So she's just an awesome person, and she just brings it real. So I knew that whatever question I asked, she was going to answer it honestly. So, I mean, that video kind of blew up, but like, it was really cool because I respect her opinion and I respect the way she says things. And I also know that she doesn't like whiners. She doesn't like complainers, and she says it real. And like, I always appreciate that from people. So, and she's like the person of sales development. So it was really good.
I don't know, 800 miles away, but your energy is coming right through the camera, right through the audio. You know, it's so cool. I mean, like anybody you can see it in your videos, right? But actually being on a call with you, actually being, you know, in front of you, face to face through the internet with you. I mean, it's intoxicating. I mean, it's really awesome. You've got something there. And I love that, you know, you talk, I mean, we don't need to ask you what your why is like we do with the rest of our guests, because you've already covered that, right? You with your motivation and your 4 levels and everything. That is something that I'm really glad you're using your powers for good, Morgan, because, you know, you turn that, you get flipped to the dark side, and we've got some serious issues on our hands.
And there is such a superhero theme going on here. I love it.
I got my Batman beanie too. So.
Oh, I love it.
Go.
See, now we need a cape though. There's got to be a cape going on somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a shield, something that. Yeah, absolutely. We've got some branding we can do here, Morgan.
Hey, I'm all about it.
I love it. So now, Morgan, you talk about the fact that you really didn't come into this role with a lot of sales experience. I know you're not too many years out of college. What did you study in school?
Finance and sports management, double major.
Okay, and now you're in brand awareness and sales.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it. That's awesome. I love it when you basically just follow the path that's been put before you. I think that's fabulous.
Of course.
And so do you find why sports management and finance in school?
Yeah. So, everyone like always regrets what they take and they're like, I'm not using it and they're sad about it. I know I'm going to use it in the future. I'm not really worried about it. I already kind of have a plan for that. But the biggest thing is that like, I took it because I wanted to be a sports agent. So that was one of the biggest things growing up. When I first, I guess, when you start college, 17, 18 years old, and they ask you what you want to do, I just asked, like, what's going to make me the most money? Like, obviously, I didn't care what the heck at that point.
Right.
I didn't know why or definition. Like, no one taught you that in high school. So it's like, yeah, what's going to make me the most money? Like, what is it? I'll do it, right? So that was the first connotation. And then around junior year, I just really love sports. I grew up in it. I was like, I'll just be a sports agent and just do that. It should be not that difficult. Then they told me how to go to law school, and I was like, yeah, forget that. So, at some point, I want to get back into, what I studied. I enjoyed finance. I don't like the financial industry. I don't like the sports industry, but I like the merging of those two. I might probably go back and help college athletes when they get to the NFL or something around those lines, or, create something along that, because I think that's super important. There's a lot of people who get into the NFL and they squander their money within 3 years and they're broke and they're bankrupt and like that. If you're earning millions of dollars, that just shouldn't happen. So I don't think there's a lot of accountability. I don't think there's a lot of people who have been through the ropes to certain things to actually help people. So, that's probably one of the things that I ended up getting it in the first place. So I'll always use it, but I always see things as like you go through them, you learn from them, and you have to execute. Like the biggest problem that people have today is that they complain about the stuff that's happened to them instead of actually analyzing why it happened to them and then executing on it, because there's probably a bigger picture.
There's always a bigger picture.
Yeah.
There's always a bigger picture. And, perspective, when you think about your perspective, it literally means that you stand back and look at things from that bigger picture, right? I mean, you've got the perspective of what's happening right up close, and then you've got, if you take that step back, you can see what's going on around it, and you can start to understand some of the things that are going on. And what drives me nuts about so many salespeople is that they just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, which I've always been taught is the definition of insanity, and they don't take
well, it's also mind-numbing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's it. They just start to check out.
Yeah, and you check out, you're not engaged, and then it's just you get to that unmotivated level again, like what you were just talking about. Yeah, we're just going to we're going to go through, yeah, all right, well, my boss isn't mad at me. I'm not doing great, but my boss isn't mad at me, so that's fine. I'll go home and drink my beer and watch my football and just, thank God it's Friday, and too bad it's Monday, right? I mean, it's just so uninspiring.
It's interesting. I love watching some of your videos, Morgan. What do you see as the future of the Chronicles, the SDR Chronicles?
It's, so the challenge is that I have to get to 100 episodes before Ralph Barcy can even get on the Chronicles. So like right now, that's my true motivation to get to 100. It's a documentation. I think someone asked me this other day and they were like, what's the true motivation? My true motivation is for people to stop complaining. I want people to stop complaining. It's probably the one thing that actually just makes me really angry. So like my whole thing is I'm going to show people exactly what happened. And so that you have literally no excuse. So like if I can come from no background of anything, no sales, right out of college, and a year get promoted to leadership and the fastest growing startup in Atlanta, I just don't want to hear any excuses from anybody. I'm just
like it.
So you literally like, all right, whoever's complaining, I'm just going to send it to you. Like, here you go. No excuses, no complaints at all. That's part of it because I hate that. And the biggest thing is that like, there are so many complainers and whiners in this world who are like, these things are wrong instead of providing the solution. My solution is just to document something and give it to someone because I don't like complainers. So my solution is to give you the SDR Chronicles. It's also for just like, if I wish I had this when I first started my SDR role, if I can actually Google something or go on YouTube and find all these videos, like I would have been so excited to find someone who was an SDR doing something and I would have listened to every single word, because it's like, I'm obviously, if I listen to every single one of these things that he's saying, like, then I'll be massively successful. Like, it just makes sense. Like, if someone leaves a blueprint of success, you should probably read it. So my whole thing is I want to leave that as well.
I think that's awesome. And I got to tell you, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I would have loved to have had someone like you around when I first started. Obviously, we didn't have half of the things that that we have today back then. I won't tell you how long ago that was, but it really helps tremendously. And I know that especially starting out, you can develop a lot of bad habits without really meaning to, right? So you just kind of start to morph to the environment that you're in. And what's good about having something like SDR Chronicles out there is that you start to see there is a different way. You don't have to do it the way your company has always done it, because that's how you're learning today. You can learn outside of that environment. I have to tell you, I have a couple of millennials that I coach on a pretty regular basis, and they will be getting your link to your YouTube channel in the next 30 minutes.
There you go.
They have an assignment from me on what they're going to listen to between now and our next session. So.
Awesome.
Well, Morgan, it's been awesome having you. It's just one of the best guests we've ever had to this point. And like I said a few minutes ago, I mean, the energy that you bring is palpable even over the internet. And I think that's a gift that you have. And I'm glad that you're out there working so hard to inspire others, taking away excuses. You don't think you can do it? Well, I did it. Here's proof. It's on video. It's not even dubbed. It's just me. Here I am. I'm throwing it out there for you. And, I love the idea that authenticity continues to become a term that is synonymous with trust in business, and that you can be yourself. You can wear shirts with little pelicans on them, or you can show up in a crew neck, right? I mean, it's like, look, this is me. This is who I am. There's no pretense here. I'm doing it every single day. So you can go to hashtag SDR Chronicles on YouTube. Where else can people find you, Morgan?
Yeah, so it's not too hard. If you just type in Morgan J. Ingram on LinkedIn, you can find me. At Morgan J. Ingram on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're at. Those are like the best. That's the best way to find me. And then, of course, the SDR Chronicles on YouTube is also like where all the video content is.
I love it. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to our coffee very soon. Yes. And I think we have some friends in common too. So we'll have to talk about that offline.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah. Excellent. So Jeff, with that, I think that is the end of this episode. And our next week, what do we have on tap?
I can't wait till next week. Next week, we've got a very good friend of mine and one of the first people that I worked with in a sales organization who had a ton of influence over me. And he was one of the first people who really brought to mind that it's really not your product that people are buying. So I'm excited to have Philip Murphy next week. We're going to talk to him about the fact that it's not about your product.
I love it. You've got a couple of things that you want to talk about with sponsorships, right, Jeff?
Just really, really quickly, there is a charity event that's coming up, and Christie, you'll appreciate this. It's a golf marathon. We play 100 holes or more of golf.
My favorite.
On the same day. It's a blast. It is for a charitable organization called Chosen Vision, and what they do is they build, staff, and maintain homes for adults with developmental disabilities. This is a charity and a cause. It's very near and dear to my heart. My wife and I, we support this charity with a lot of our time and a lot of our resources, and actually some very dear friends of ours have a son who is in one of these homes. So to see the impact that this charity has firsthand has been tremendous. So you can go to chosenvision.org. It's spelled exactly the way you think it is. And we'll also put a link in the show notes to the page where you can go to, if you choose, support my mission of playing an enormous amount of golf in one day, which is actually always a lot more fun than it sounds.
I love it. It has nothing to do with drinking beer on the course either.
We don't drink a lot. Listen, I'll tell you what. It is a golf marathon for a reason. It is a marathon. There's not a whole lot of drinking you can do and still, stay upright for that long. So it's about the golf. It's about the charity. We have a blast.
Excellent. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. And again, look for that information and links to Morgan's SDR Chronicles show and contact information in the show notes.
the thing that really impresses me about Morgan, and I'm glad he's still here with us, hanging on while we're doing all this promotional stuff, but, Morgan is a guy who really knows his whys. And when you know your whys, your hows and your whats get a whole lot better. Thanks for joining us, Morgan, and thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll talk to you next week.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Why and the Buy podcast. If you liked us, subscribe. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, and really anywhere else you can get a podcast. And if you really liked us, then give us a 5-star review. We like those, and we like you too. Here at the Why and the Buy podcast, we've got our own house band. Christie and I think they're absolutely perfect for what we're trying to do with this podcast, and we hope you think so too. If you like them as much as we do, then you should check them out. They're called Haskins, and they're based in southeastern Michigan. You can find their music and more at haskinsmusic.com. Go check them out.
And the ghosts of these letters linger on the former page, fixed with a broadside.